Joel, I just can't help but to think that so a big part of this is probably a problem with labels, right?
Yeah.
Right? Starting to label these conditions. And then you have people identifying with that label or being clumped into that label. Have you found that to be true? Like, it sounds like that's part of the issue here is that now, was it the pharmaceutical company who started creating these labels of these different health conditions, these mental health conditions?
Highly influential. What they've done is they've hired academic psychiatrists pretty much as thought labels, or thought leaders. And those thought leaders are very influential in how we think about the human experience and align that with the major medical establishment, the allopathic model. So the DSM is the diagnostic statistical model, which is really created not through strong empirical evidence, because these aren't discrete medical conditions. So whether we call it depression or anxiety or the 300 plus psychiatric diagnoses that have evolved over the past 40 years, what they are is they are descriptive. So they have no explanatory value. They're highly influenced by pharmaceutical dollars. When you look at those who've been on the various committees who actually vote in psychiatric conditions, those are the overwhelming amount of those committee members accept pharmaceutical dollars. So let's take major depressive disorder. So you're taking an emotional state and you're trying to create it as a disorder or an illness. The criteria for meeting that condition is so easily attainable that any one person is going to be able to obtain that diagnosis at any one given time. So there's 9 symptoms. You only have to achieve like 5 of them for a very short amount of time, 2 weeks. So you sell this label as if it's a discrete medical illness. If it's a medical illness, well, then you can get a drug approved to treat it. We are conditioned to see our doctors for almost everything. So you're going through a normal adaptation process in response to some life stressors. That could be ending a relationship. That could be grief. That could be loss. That could be financial stress. And you report these symptoms in your medical centers. Well, they're going to provide you that label. And now you are a depressed person, which is a construct that we have created in modern culture. Well, what does it mean to be a depressed person? Well, it means I'm sick. It means I am broken. If you dig further, it means there might be something wrong with my biochemistry. Well, how do you approach that? You approach it with a pharmaceutical. That pharmaceutical is going to correct that emotional imbalance, that chemical imbalance, and then I will feel better. And we've adopted that mindset into our culture, so much so that in 2022, 66 million adults were taking an antidepressant, according to the CDC. 66 million. And that's in 2022. I guarantee you it's more. We're upwards now of about 25% of American adults on at least one psychiatric drug. The last time I saw data around children is we were providing SSRIs to upwards of 20% of adolescent females. So we've medicalized all aspects of the human condition. We've prescribed pharmaceuticals that fundamentally interfere with normal adaptation and functioning on a large scale level. For adolescents, for example, just serotonin, which is a very complicated neurochemical, interacts with all aspects of our body, including hormones. 98%, most of serotonin originates through complex gut microbiome. So what happens when we start to interfere with these natural, normal processes? Well, one of the things we know, it already has a black box warning for suicide. In my research, if you put an adolescent on a SSRI compared to a placebo, that's a 6-fold increase in the likelihood that that teen is going to die by suicide. None of this information is widely known. Even though we have the warnings on the drug labels, even though we have the black box warning, which is the last warning before a drug is removed from market, almost nobody gets this information. And we're stuck in this narrative around mental illness. And it's really become something in our popular culture that has extended itself to a degree where we've lost all sense of reality. ADHD as a diagnosis, depression as a diagnosis, people identifying themselves as autism without even meeting the criteria. They've adopted as a personality, and that personality is used to explain all challenges that exist in their life. You see this on social media now, where people are putting psychiatric diagnoses in their profiles for whatever platform they're on, and they've identified themselves as an ADHD person. They've identified themselves as a depressed person, as if it's a genetic condition that they have obtained, and there's nothing they can do. They just have to manage it for the rest of their life, and it requires these pharmaceuticals. The real sad thing is they reflect on every problem that exists as related to that illness. So lost relationships, not having success in school or in a job. They use this diagnosis, this label, as an explanation or justification for all those challenges. And again, they're never able to do the really important work to be able to face what has happened and to overcome it. So just identifying this idea of being ADHD, they create this consciousness around it. I can't focus. I'm unable to do things that other people are able to do. Not that this is true at all, because there's a lot of areas of their life they're able to focus on, but they've just adopted this personality and this mentality, and they're victims, and they're being taken advantage of by the medical establishment that really pushes it. Because what is their job? Their job is to sell as many drugs as possible. They're beholden to their shareholders. They're not beholden to our development. Drug companies do better when people are perpetually confused and in need of their product. Dead people don't make money for the pharmaceutical companies, and healthy people don't make money for pharmaceutical companies. It's the perpetually confused and externalizing their health and their mental well-being to professions and to authorities that keep them in business.
Friends, want to dive deeper into our thought-provoking conversations? Become part of the Beyond Labels family today by joining below. For any gift amount, you'll get access to the full, uncut episodes.
Every contribution, whether big or small, keeps this podcast going.
So join us and expand your Beyond Labels experience. Thank you.